Hello and welcome back to the Deep Dive. It is great to have you with us.
It's good to be here.
Today, we're embarking on what I call a dual mission. Usually we take a stack of articles, maybe a book, a big research paper, and we just, we pull out the main ideas. We're looking for those golden nuggets of information.
Right. The key takeaways.
Exactly. But today, we're adding a layer. We're going to explore a topic that I think fundamentally changes how we think about human energy.
Oh, for sure.
Especially when it comes to aging and maybe surprisingly the brain.
That's right. And honestly, the science we're covering today it's dense. It can be heavy.
Yeah.
So for the second part of our mission, we're going to slow things down just a little bit. We know a huge portion of our listeners, you, are using these deep dives to sharpen your language skills. And science in particular is full of what we might call gatekeeping language. It's full of jargon, and it can feel pretty intimidating.
It really can be. I mean, you read a medical abstract, and it honestly feels like you're reading a different language entirely.
Completely.
So while we build your brain with the science, we're also going to try and build your vocabulary with the English. We're going to pause on some of those big technical terms, shine a spotlight on them, and unpack where they come from and how you can actually use them.
I love this approach. I really do, because unlocking the language is the key to unlocking the concepts.
Yes.
And the concept today, well, it's a big one. It's probably the most misunderstood molecule in the entire fitness world.
Okay, let's introduce the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
If I say the word creatine to you or to someone just walking down the street, what's the first image that pops into their head?
Oh, it's so specific. It's the locker room. It's a giant plastic tub of white powder.
Totally.
It's big, bulky guys, gym bros, grunting and dropping these heavy weights.
Right. It has this reputation as like a vanity supplement.
Yeah.
You take it to get swollen biceps. Maybe people even confuse it with steroids or something like that. It feels like it's purely for aesthetics, for looks.
That is the stereotype. And to be fair, for about 30 years, that was the marketing. It was sold to sprinters, to bodybuilders.
Right.
But the source we have today completely dismantles that view. We're looking at a very deep, very technical conversation between Dr. Rhonda Patrick and Dr. Darren Kandau.
And just to give some context here, Dr. Kandau isn't just a fan of creatine. I mean, this guy is a titan in the field.
He's a heavyweight, no question. He has published over 140 peer-reviewed papers specifically on creatine.
Wow.
So when he talks, the industry listens. And the picture he paints is, well, it's shocking if you still think this is just for bodybuilders. He argues that creatine is actually a critical nutrient for longevity, for bone health, and this is the big one, for the brain.
That's the headline for today, isn't it? The neck-up revolution. We're going to stop looking at just the biceps, and we're going to start looking at the brain. We're going to cover how creatine fuels your thoughts, how it can act as a shield against aging, and get into the really specific how-to protocols. Dosing, timing, all of it.
And we'll bust some very, very persistent myths along the way.
So are you ready to dive in?
Let's do it.
Okay, so to understand why Dr. Kandau goes so far as to call this a conditionally essential nutrient, we have to go all the way down to the microscopic level.
We do.
We have to talk about energy. And I don't just mean feeling energetic like you had a good coffee.
Hey.
I mean the actual chemical physics of keeping a cell alive.
Right. Which means we need to talk about ATP.
Okay, let's hit our first vocabulary spotlight right there. ATP. What is that?
So ATP stands for adenosine triphosphate.
Yeah.
Now that is a mouthful, and you really don't need to use the full name at a dinner party.
Okay, good.
But you do need to understand the concept.
Yeah.
The best way to think of ATP is as the energy currency of the human body.
The energy currency. I like that analogy. Let's unpack that a bit. Why?
Yeah.
Why currency?
Well, imagine you go to a store, right? You can't pay with a gold bar. You can't pay with a promise. You need cash. Immediate spendable cash. ATP is the cash your cells use to buy function. If a muscle cell wants to contract, it costs ATP. If a brain cell wants to fire off a signal, that costs ATP. Without it, the cell is just dead.
So we are constantly spending this cash every second of every day just to stay alive.
Constantly, billions and billions of times a second. But here's the big physiological problem. We have very, very small pockets. We can't store a lot of ATP.
Really?
If you were to start sprinting, I mean, as fast as you could right now, you would burn through all of your stored ATP in about 2 seconds.
2 seconds, that's it.
That's it. You are energetically bankrupt in 2 seconds flat.
Well, so evolution had to come up with a way to get more cash and get it fast. We need like an ATM machine right there inside the muscle.
Precisely. That is the perfect way to visualize it. And that ATM is the phosphocreatine system. This is where creatine actually does its job. It recycles the energy. Dr. Kando compares it to a battery charger. You use the energy, the battery dies, and creatine is right there to instantly snap a new charge onto it.
So effectively, if I have more creatine in my system,
Yes.
wait, does that mean I have a faster, more efficient battery charger?
Yes, exactly.
Right.
And that buys you time. So instead of running out of energy in 2 seconds, you can maintain that high-intensity effort for maybe 10 seconds, maybe 12.
Which explains why sprinters were all over it. It's for that initial burst of power.
It is.
But Dr. Kando made a really nuanced point about resistance training, about weightlifting. He said you don't necessarily feel the creatine working on your first set of reps.
This is what I call the set 2, 3, and 4 rule. And I found this fascinating because it helps manage expectations.
How so?
If you go to the gym, you take your creatine, and you do a set of squats, you're not going to suddenly feel like Superman on that first set. You're still fresh. Your ATP tank is full.
The difference happens when you start to get tired.
Exactly. It's all about delaying fatigue.
Okay, let's do another vocabulary moment there. Fatigue.
Right. Fatigue. It's a common word, but in exercise science, it has a very specific meaning. It isn't just being sleepy. It's the inability of the muscle to generate force. It's that moment when you tell your arm to lift the weight one more time, and it physically cannot do it because the fuel is gone.
And the opposite of that, the flip side, would be recovery.
Right. Recovery,
Right.
which is the process of getting back to a normal state of refueling. Dr. Kando pointed out that without creatine, it might take your body 3 to 5 minutes to fully regenerate that ATP between sets.
Which is a long time. I see people doing that just sitting on a bench, staring at their phone for ages.
True. But with creatine saturation, that recovery window shrinks dramatically. You might be ready to go again in just 60 seconds.
So you can do more work in the same amount of time.
And that's the secret sauce. It's not magic. It's just enhanced work capacity. More work over time equals a stronger signal to the muscle, which equals more growth.
So it's an enabler. It allows you to do the hard work that gets the result. It doesn't just give you the result.
That's a perfect summary. It facilitates the work.
Okay, so that covers the neck down part of the story.
Right.
That's the gym stuff. We understand why athletes have been using it for decades. But the part of this research that really grabbed me, and I think will really grab you, our listeners, is the neck up.
This is the frontier. It really is. Dr. Kando said explicitly that the next 20 or 30 years of creatine research is going to be dominated by the brain.
Which is so intuitive when you stop and think about it. The brain is an organ. It's made of cells. Those cells need energy to work.
They use a lot of energy. The brain is unbelievably greedy. It's only about 2 or 3% of your body weight, but it devours 20% of your daily energy.
20%, wow.
It's constantly burning through ATP just to think, to regulate your heartbeat, even to dream.
But the source material made a distinction here that I'll admit confused me at first. It said the brain actually makes its own creatine. It's capable of synthesizing it.
It is.
So if my brain is already a little creatine factory, why on earth would I need to eat it?
That is the million-dollar question. And the answer really lies in the difference between survival and optimization.
Okay.
Yes. Under normal, relaxed conditions, if you're sleeping 8 hours a night, you're low stress, you're eating perfectly, your brain makes just enough creatine to get by. It's self-sufficient.
But who actually lives like that?
Exactly. Modern life is not relaxed conditions. And Dr. Kando introduced a term for this, metabolic stress.
Let's spotlight that. Metabolic stress.
So metabolic refers to your metabolism, all the chemical processes that create and use energy. Metabolic stress is simply when the demand for energy is higher than the supply.
Like revving an engine too high and the fuel line just can't keep up?
Perfect analogy. It's an energy crisis in the cell.
So what does metabolic stress look like for a brain? It's not lifting weights.
No. For the brain, metabolic stress is sleep deprivation. It's jet lag. It's doing intense cognitive tasks, like trying to learn a new language, for example, or studying for a huge exam, or, quite simply, it's just aging.
Dr. Kando cited a study on sleep deprivation that was honestly pretty wild.
The 21-hour study, this was incredible. They took a group of people and just kept them awake for 21 hours straight.
We've all been there. It's not fun.
No, after 21 hours, you're basically a zombie. You have that classic brain fog. Your decision-making skills just plummet.
I can barely operate a toaster after 21 hours awake. I'm useless.
Right. But in this study, the group that had been supplementing with creatine showed significantly better cognitive performance, better memory, better mood, better reaction time than the placebo group.
Wow.
The creatine essentially acted as a backup generator. When the brain's own little factory couldn't keep up with the exhaustion, the supplemental creatine from their diet stepped in to fill that energy gap.
That is a huge insight for shift workers, for new parents, for students. It's like a buffer against burnout.
It is. Dr. Kandau mentioned he uses it specifically for jet lag. Travel is a huge form of metabolic stress. Your sleep cycles are off, your brain is tired. He takes a high dose to sort of force that energy into the brain.
We are definitely going to get to those specific doses in a bit because they are different for the brain than for the body.
Yeah.
But there's a darker side to brain stress we should touch on. Actual trauma.
Yes. TBI, traumatic brain injury, or concussions.
This is a really sensitive topic, especially with contact sports like football or rugby. What's the theory here?
The theory is all about neuroprotection.
Yeah.
The idea is if you have high levels of creatine in your brain before an injury happens, before you get that hit to the head, the damage might be less severe.
Ow.
The creatine provides immediate energy to those stunned cells to help them survive the initial shock and start the repair process faster.
So it's almost like putting chemical armor on your brain cells.
In a way, yes. It's providing them with a bigger energy reserve to withstand the trauma. Dr. Kandau mentioned animal studies where the outcomes for recovery were much, much better with creatine preloading.
But we can't really run those experiments on humans.
No, of course not. You can't give people creatine and then hit them with a hammer to see what happens. That would be wildly unethical. But the observational data from athletes is very, very promising.
But there's a biological hurdle here, right? The brain isn't like a muscle. It's hard to get things into it.
It's a fortress. It is protected by the blood-brain barrier.
Okay, let's spotlight that term. The blood-brain barrier.
This is such a crucial concept in medicine. The blood-brain barrier is a filtering mechanism. It's a layer of tightly packed cells that line the blood vessels in your brain.
A filter for what?
For everything. Think of it as the world's strictest bouncer at the door of a nightclub. It stops bacteria, it stops toxins, it stops viruses from getting in and causing chaos.
But it also stops good things, like medicine.
Yes, and it stops supplements. This is the key point. Muscle tissue is like a sponge. It sucks up creatine from the blood very easily. The brain is like a brick wall.
It's stubborn.
Very. It doesn't have the same number of transport trucks, so to speak, to bring the creatine inside. And this is why Dr. Kandau argues that if you really want the brain benefits, taking a tiny dose might not be enough. You need to create enough pressure in the blood to almost force it through that wall.
I love that image. We have to lay siege to the fortress.
We do. And we will break down the siege protocol in the dosing section.
Before we do that, I want to pivot to the third pillar of this deep dive. We've done muscles, we've done the brain. Now, let's talk about bones.
This is the longevity piece. This is huge. If you want to live a long, independent life, you have to worry about your skeleton.
As we age, we lose things.
Right.
We know we lose muscle and we lose bone. Let's define the muscle loss first. It has this great kind of dramatic Greek name, sarcopenia.
Sarcopenia. This is a beautiful but also terrifying word. It comes from the Greek sarx, which means flesh, and penia, which means poverty or lack.
Poverty of the flesh. That's poetic and grim all at once.
It's the involuntary loss of skeletal muscle mass and strength as we get older. It starts in your 30s, believe it or not, and it accelerates in your 50s, and it is the primary reason elderly people lose their independence.
Right. They lose the strength to get up from a chair, to walk upstairs, to catch themselves if they stumble.
And when they fall, because their bones are also weak, they break a hip. And a broken hip in your 80s it's often a catastrophic, life-altering event.
It's a cascade. So stopping sarcopenia and stopping bone loss osteoporosis is really the holy grail of anti-aging medicine.
It is.
So how on earth does creatine, which we think of as a muscle energizer, help a hard, solid bone?
This surprised me too, but bone isn't dead rock. It's living tissue. It's constantly being remodeled. You have two teams of workers inside your bones, the osteoblasts and the osteoclasts.
Okay, vocabulary spotlight on those two. Osteoblasts and osteoclasts.
These are the construction crews of your skeleton. Osteoblasts are the builders. Just remember B for build. They are the cells that lay down new bone minerals. They build the structure.
And the osteoclasts.
They are the demolition crew. The C is for crash or consume. They break down and eat up old, damaged bone tissue to make way for the new stuff.
Okay, so in a healthy young person, the builders and the demolishers are working at the same speed, right?
They're in balance. But as we age, especially after menopause for women, the builders, the osteoblasts, they get tired, they slow down. But the crashers, the osteoclasts, they just keep working at the same pace.
So you're tearing down the house faster than you're rebuilding it.
Exactly. And that's how your bones get brittle and weak. Now, what Dr. Kandau explains is that creatine seems to act as an energy source for the osteoblasts, for the builders.
It wakes them up.
It gives them the ATP, the energy currency, to lay down more cement. And at the same time, it seems to slow down the demolition crew.
But there is a huge, massive caveat here. Dr. Kandau was really emphatic about this. You cannot just swallow a spoonful of powder and wait for your bones to get stronger.
No, the magic is conditional. The condition is mechanical stress. You must exercise.
You have to lift weights.
You have to lift weights or do some kind of impact activity. The bone needs the signal from the muscle pulling on it that says, hey, we are under a heavy load here. We need to get stronger. The creatine just provides the fuel to execute that order. If there's no order, there is no building.
It's the classic use it or lose it.
It's use it or lose it, but with a turbocharger attached.
This brings us to a really fascinating theoretical framework that you pulled from the notes, the triage theory. This helps explain why different parts of the body get the creatine at different times.
Yes. Triage is a medical term. If you go to an emergency room, the nurses triage the patients. The person having a heart attack gets seen first. The person with a broken finger has to wait.
Okay. The body does the same thing with nutrients.
It prioritizes. And in this case, who is the priority patient? Who gets the creatine first?
The muscles.
The muscles, Dr. Kandau calls them greedy. They are biologically primed to grab creatine out of the bloodstream first and foremost. They have the most transporters. They absorb about 95% of the creatine you eat.
So if I take a small dose, let's say 3 grams, the muscles basically eat the whole meal and the brain and bones get nothing. They starve.
Exactly. The muscles are at the front of the buffet line. To get any creatine to the back of the line, to the brain and the bone, you have to make sure the muscles are completely full, stuffed. You need spillover.
Ah, so this explains why the dosing recommendations for brain health and longevity are so much higher than for just gym performance. We're trying to create that spillover effect.
That is the leading hypothesis. You have to totally saturate the entire system so that the excess has nowhere to go but into these other important tissues.
Okay, so thinking about saturation, let's talk about super responders. Some people take creatine and feel nothing. Others take it and feel like a new person. Who are the people who need this the most?
Well, if we look at baseline levels, the group with the lowest natural creatine in their bodies are, without a doubt, vegans and vegetarians.
Let's do a quick spotlight here. Omnivore versus herbivore versus vegan.
An omnivore eats everything, plants and animals. Most humans are omnivores. An herbivore eats only plants. And a vegan is a human who chooses to follow a strict herbivore diet, no animal products at all.
And creatine is found in muscle tissue. So red meat, fish, chicken.
Right. And plants have zero creatine, absolutely none. So if you're a vegan, your only source of creatine is what your own liver can painfully and slowly synthesize. Your tank is basically hovering near empty all the time.
So when a vegan starts supplementing, it must be a huge shock to their system.
It's massive. Dr. Kandau notes that vegetarians and vegans are super responders. They see the biggest jump in memory, the biggest jump in strength. It's like putting high-octane fuel in a car that has been running on fumes its whole life.
That is a huge takeaway for our plant-based listeners. You're leaving a lot of performance on the table if you aren't supplementing.
Absolutely, no question.
What about women? Historically, sports science has just been, well, it's been studies on 20-year-old college guys. Is that changing at all?
It is, thankfully. And Dr. Kandau highlights that women have very distinct phases in their lives where creatine is particularly vital. One is menopause. When estrogen levels drop, both muscle and bone loss accelerate very rapidly. Creatine can act as a powerful countermeasure to slow that down.
And he also touched on pregnancy. Now, standard disclaimer here.
Yeah.
Always talk to your doctor. But the science is very interesting.
It is. The fetus requires an enormous amount of energy to build its brain. And there's a hypothesis that maternal supplementation could help protect the baby's brain from the stress of birth, like a temporary lack of oxygen. Dr. Kandau supports this, but he admits it's very hard to get approval for big clinical trials on pregnant women.
Of course, because of the ethics. It's too risky to experiment during pregnancy.
Right. But the safety profile that we do have from other studies is incredibly strong.
Which brings us to kids. I have definitely heard parents say things like, oh, I don't want my teenager taking that stuff. It'll stunt their growth.
That is a complete myth. Dr. Kendo really busts this one. He cites studies showing improvements in agility, coordination, and strength in child athletes with zero adverse effects.
Vocabulary spotlight. Adverse effects.
This is just the formal medical way of saying bad side effects, things like nausea, headaches, or injury. In the studies, the kids taking creatine had no more adverse effects than the kids taking the sugar pill placebo.
Right.
And in fact, for children with certain conditions like muscular dystrophy, a muscle-wasting disease creatine is a standard prescription from their doctor.
That's a powerful endorsement. If doctors are giving it to sick kids to help them, it's almost certainly safe for healthy ones. Okay, we have covered the why and the who. Now let's get practical. The how. The ultimate protocol.
This is where people get so confused, and it's because the supplement industry makes it confusing on purpose.
For sure. You walk into a store and there are all these neon bottles everywhere. Creatine HDL, liquid creatine, buffered creatine, creatine nitrate.
And they all cost 2 or 3 times as much as the plain, simple stuff. Dr. Kando's advice here is both brutal and simple. Ignore them all.
All of them. Why? Is it just a marketing scam?
Mostly, yes. Or they're selling you a solution to a problem that doesn't actually exist. Take something like creatine HCl or buffered creatine. The claim is they absorb better because of pH levels.
Right.
But just think about your stomach for a second. Your stomach is a vat of hydrochloric acid.
It's incredibly acidic.
So whatever fancy, expensive buffer you paid extra for, your stomach acid destroys it in seconds. It all turns into the exact same molecule in your gut anyway.
And what about liquid creatine?
That might be the worst offender. Creatine is not stable in water. If you leave it in a liquid solution for weeks on a shelf, it breaks down into its waste product, creatinine.
Yeah.
So you are paying a premium price to drink expensive waste.
Yikes. So the winner is?
The boring, the cheap, the classic, creatine monohydrate.
Creatine monohydrate. Why is that the gold standard?
2 words, bioavailability.
Okay, let's spotlight that one. Bioavailability.
Bio means life. Availability means, well, available. So it's a measure of how much of a substance you consume actually enters your bloodstream and becomes available for your body to use.
So if I swallow a rock, it has 0 bioavailability. It just passes right through.
Exactly. And creatine monohydrate.
What's its score?
Nearly 100% bioavailability. Your body knows exactly what to do with it. It is the most studied, most proven supplement in history. Don't overthink it. Just get the plain monohydrate powder.
Okay, monohydrate powder. Got it. Now, the dosing. This is key. How much do we actually take?
Dr. Kando breaks this down into 3 main strategies. Strategy 1 is what we can call the standard protocol. This is for your average person who goes to the gym.
Okay.
And that dose is 3 to 5 grams a day.
3 to 5 grams. That's about 1 teaspoon.
Yep. If you take that every single day, in about 30 days, your muscles will be fully saturated. It's slow, it's steady, and it's very effective.
But what if I'm impatient? What if I have a competition next week and I want to get the benefits as fast as possible?
Then you could choose strategy 2, the loading phase. This is where you take 20 grams a day, usually split up, for 5 to 7 days. You just flood the system to saturate the muscles quickly.
But there's a downside, right?
There is. For a lot of people, taking 20 grams at once is a lot for their digestive system to handle. It can cause bloating, cramps, and some bathroom urgency.
The dreaded creatine bloat. I've heard about that.
Exactly. Dr. Kanda says for most people, it's just not worth the stomach ache. Be patient, take the 5 grams a day, and you'll get to the same place.
Okay, but then there's strategy 3, the brain and aging protocol. This is the one that really caught my eye.
This is the new science. This is where it gets really interesting. Dr. Kando suggests that for older adults, let's say over 50, or for people who are specifically targeting cognitive health, that 3 to 5 grams is likely not enough.
Right, because of the greedy muscles and the blood-brain barrier.
Exactly. You need to create that spillover. So he suggests aiming for 10 grams per day.
10 grams. That's double the standard gym dose.
It is. But that seems to be the threshold required to get significant amounts of creatine into the bone and brain tissue where it can do its work.
That is a really big takeaway. If you're taking it for memory or for bone density, check your dose. You might be underdosing and not getting the benefits you want.
It's very possible.
Now, what about timing? Does it matter if I take it before the gym, after the gym, in the morning, at night?
The short answer is it doesn't matter much. Consistency is by far the most important variable. Just take it every day.
Okay.
The nuanced answer is that taking it close to your workout, so either immediately before or immediately after, might be slightly superior.
And why is that?
Just blood flow. When you exercise, your blood is pumping hard to your muscles. It acts as a super efficient delivery highway. So in theory, the delivery of the creatine is a little more efficient. But honestly, don't stress about it. Put it in your morning smoothie. Put it in your post-workout shake. Just get it in.
And what if that 10-gram dose upsets my stomach?
Just split it up. It's that simple. Take 5 grams with breakfast and 5 grams with dinner. That almost always solves the problem completely.
Fantastic. Okay, before we wrap this up, we have to play Mythbusters. Because if you Google creatine, you will find some very scary headlines.
Oh, you will. The internet loves a good health scare.
Myth number 1, and this is the big one, creatine destroys your kidneys. I have heard this from very smart people. Don't take that, you'll end up on dialysis.
This is a classic case of confusing the map with the territory. It's a fundamental medical misunderstanding.
Okay, break it down for us.
Right. When your body uses and processes creatine, it creates a waste product. This waste product is called creatinine. Notice the extra "in" at the end, creatinine.
Okay, so creatine becomes creatinine.
Yes. And your kidney's job is to filter that creatinine waste out of your blood. So normally, if a doctor does a blood test and sees very high levels of creatinine, it's a red flag. It means the kidneys aren't filtering properly. It's a marker for kidney failure.
Ah, I see where this is going.
Right. If you take a creatine supplement, you are putting tons more creatine into your system, so naturally you are going to produce more creatinine waste. Your blood levels will go up. But your kidneys are perfectly fine. They're just processing a higher volume of waste, which is what they're supposed to do.
So it's a false positive on the blood test?
It is a complete false positive. But if your doctor doesn't know you're taking the supplement, they might see that number and panic. Dr. Kando says, always tell your doctor you are taking creatine. It saves everyone a lot of stress and unnecessary tests.
Okay, that's a huge public service announcement. Myth number 2, the big one for the guys out there. Creatine makes you go bald.
Ah, the hair loss myth. This is so persistent, and it comes from one single study.
Just one.
One study. It was on a group of rugby players from over a decade ago. In that one study, the players taking creatine had a slight increase in a hormone called DHT, and high levels of DHT are linked to male pattern baldness.
So A leads to B, and B leads to C. It sounds logical.
It does, in theory. But here's the reality check. That study has never, ever been replicated. Nobody else has found that same result. And even in the original study, the rugby players' DHT levels were still well within the normal healthy range.
So it didn't push them into some kind of danger zone for hair loss?
No, not at all. Dr. Kando dismisses this almost entirely. He says the evidence just isn't there to support it. If you're going bald, it's almost certainly your genetics, not the creatine.
Sorry, guys. Blame your parents, not the powder. Okay, last one. Myth number 3. Dehydration and cramping. Creatine sucks all the water out of you and makes you cramp up.
The truth is literally the opposite of that. Creatine is what's known as osmotic.
Osmotic.
It attracts water. It actively pulls water into the muscle cell.
So it's bringing water inside the cell. That's intracellular water.
Vocabulary spotlight. Intracellular.
Intra means inside. Cellular relates to a cell, so inside the cell.
Correct. Creatine hyperhydrates the muscle cell from the inside. And a well-hydrated cell is a happy, resilient cell. It handles heat better. It handles fatigue better. Dr. Kando says creatine actually protects you from cramping and heat-related illness. The idea that it dehydrates you is scientifically backward.
It is amazing how these myths persist even when the actual science says the complete opposite.
Fear travels faster than facts, unfortunately.
Well, we've traveled a long way today. Let's try to recap the perfect protocol for everyone listening.
Okay, get your checklist ready. Number 1. Buy creatine monohydrate. Just the plain, boring, cheap stuff. Don't buy the fancy, expensive versions.
Okay, number 2.
Number 2, dose based on your goals. If you're young and focused on the gym, 3 to 5 grams is great. If you're older, vegan, or focused on your brain and bones, aim for 10 grams per day.
Number 3, timing. Just be consistent. Take it every day. Taking it with food is probably best to avoid any potential stomach issues.
4, exercise. You absolutely must combine it with resistance training to unlock those powerful bone benefits. And 5, don't panic. It's not going to hurt your kidneys or your hair. Just remember to tell your doctor you're taking it.
That is a powerful, simple summary. And let's do a quick vocabulary rapid fire of what we learned. We covered ATP, which is your energy cache.
Sarcopenia, the poverty of flesh.
Bioavailability, how much your body can actually absorb and use.
Metabolic stress, that energy crisis in your cells.
And intracellular, meaning inside the cell.
If you can weave sarcopenia and metabolic stress into a sentence this week, you definitely win the English prize.
I want to leave our listeners with one final provocative thought, something that Dr. Kandel really hinted at that could change the whole conversation.
Yes. Throughout this whole deep dive, we've been calling creatine a supplement. But Dr. Kandau is pushing for a complete paradigm shift. He thinks we should start considering it a conditionally essential nutrient.
Conditionally essential, like a vitamin.
Exactly. Think about vitamin C. If you don't eat it, you get sick. You get scurvy. Dr. Kando is basically suggesting that if we don't get enough creatine, especially as we age or if we don't eat meat, we suffer from a kind of sarcopenic scurvy. We get frail, we get brain fog, we recover slowly from everything.
So it's not about supplementing to become superhuman. It might be about consuming it just to be a normal functioning human.
Correct. We might be walking around with a chronic deficiency of this key nutrient and just calling it getting old.
That changes everything. It reframes it completely, from locker room powder to essential vitamin.
It really does.
Thank you so much for guiding us through the science and the language today. And to our listeners, thank you for sticking with us on this very deep dive. Keep learning, stay curious, and maybe go check your protein levels. We'll see you next time.
Goodbye, everyone.